currently the only person in this conference. You are currently the only person in this conference. You are currently the only person in this conference.
Well, let me welcome all of you to this class. We're sorry we have to reschedule at this time. I know that it may not be convenient for all of us, but we just have to make those sacrifices. So, without wasting time, I want to go ahead and
Hello, sir.
yes.
Yes, I can hear you, sir. I'm having issue with my network, but I can hear you clearly now.
Okay, that's fine.
Yes, sir.
All right.
I can hear clearly, sir. I can hear clearly.
Okay. So today we will be looking at types and sources. All right. So I'm sure you can still hear me, right? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes,
All right.
sir.
So last time we had an overview of what the course is all about, the ecological effects of chemicals in the environment. We looked at the importance of chemicals in the environment. So the main reason we are focusing on these chemicals is number one, chemicals are everywhere, and a lot of chemicals are being used in different areas: the household, agriculture, industry. Chemicals are just everywhere. And so we're trying to look at the ecological effects. And remember, we said that ecological effect has to do with the effect that it has on the environment. And then the components of the environment is the land, the water, and the air. Okay. And again, not just the land, the water, and the air that is involved, even the organisms that are living in the environment are involved. Talking about terrestrial organisms, organisms that live in the land, they are all affected by these chemicals. And aquatic organisms are also affected by these chemicals. So the fish and other uh, uh, organisms that live inside the water, they are affected by these chemicals. And so that's why they are of great importance to us, and that's why we need to discuss them. Because if you are going to be dealing with environmental standards, you have to look at it in a holistic way. The things that affect the environment. And if you are a professional that is supposed to set up standard for, the environment, so you need to know the effect of these chemicals so that you can set up the proper standard for their use. So today we'll be looking at the types and the sources of toxicants. I remember we mentioned toxicants. These toxicants are actually the chemicals that found themselves in the environment. So here is the outline. We look at the introduction, we try to define what toxicants are, and then we look at different sources of toxicants. There are those who are from biological origin. There are also toxins that emanate from waste products. There are toxins also that come from metals and other elements. We also have toxins from synthetic and natural organic sources, and then the one from inorganic sources, and then we now conclude. So at the end of this class, you are expected to understand the meaning of toxicants, and then you're also expected to know different toxins of biological origin, also toxins from waste products, toxins from metallic origin, and different types of synthetic and natural organic toxins, as well as different types of inorganic toxins. So, by way of introduction, we define a toxicant as any substance, whether artificial or natural occurring. A toxicant is any toxic substance, any substance that is toxic, whether they are artificial or natural. And of course, you know that toxicity has to do with the ability of a substance to cause harm. Ability of a substance to cause harm. That's what toxicity is all about. So, a toxic substance has the potential to harm. And when we talk about causing harm, it, it can cause harm to humans, it can cause harm to other animals, it can cause harm to plants and even to microorganisms. So that's what a toxicant is. Then what are toxins? Toxins, a toxin is a poison produced naturally by an organism. A toxin is a poison produced naturally by an organism. Now, a typical toxin is snake venom. Snake venom is a poison. Now, there are also plants that bring out poisons. Okay, there are also mushrooms. Mushroom is a delicacy, but there are also wild mushrooms that are poisonous. So all of them are toxins because they come from organisms. They come from organisms. Now, it's different from those that come from, you know, that substances that are not living, non-living things. No, so but a toxin is a poison produced naturally by organisms. Now, a toxicant can be found. You can find a toxicant in the air. You can find it in the soil. You can also find it in the water, and of course, you can find it in the food. So I'm sure you're familiar with food poisons. When a, a toxicant finds its way in the food that we eat, the food becomes poisonous. And when people eat the food, they are poisoned. Then there are also specific toxicants affecting different organs of the body. There are specific toxicants that affect different organs of the body. We have benzene, for instance. Benzene is a substance that is, in fact, you find it in fuel, gasoline. You find benzene there, and benzene is a specific organ toxicant that is toxic to blood forming tissues. That is why those who are working in filling stations are regularly being exposed to benzene, they they may end up having uh, issues with their blood, you know, blood problem. So these are specific toxins that target specific organs or tissues in the body. The other example is lead. Lead is also a specific organ toxicant. Lead affects the central nervous system, affect the kidney, and some hematopoietic systems. Now, when we talk about hematopoietic, talk about blood forming systems. So you see why lead is poisonous. And of course, you can find the lead in the pencil, lead pencil. So that's why you need to discourage your children from eating the pencil. There are also people who are into illegal mining of lead, and they are also exposed to all these dangers. They can affect the central nervous system, affect the kidney, and also the blood forming system. And there are also some toxicants that may affect specific types of tissues. They can affect specific types of tissues, for instance, the connective tissue. So now we have all kinds of toxicants. In fact, we have the natural toxicants, and then we have the artificial toxicants. And here in the table, you are going to look at the chemical group, the common sources, and the mode of action. So, talking about some natural toxicants, that means toxicants that come from natural sources. The first one we see there are the PAH, that's polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. Polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. So, where do you find them? You find them in bush burning. Anytime you burn the bush, you are exposing yourself to polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons.
Sir,
And
the slide is not showing.
you say what?
The slide is not showing, sir. We can't see the screen.
You can't see the screen.
Yes, sir. The slide is we cannot see anything.
Yes, sir.
Hello? Can you see the slide now?
Yes, sir.
Can you see it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you haven't been seeing the slide all this while.
Yes, sir.
Ah. So that means I have to go back now. So are you seeing this? This is the first slide. This is the
Yes, sir.
introduction.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I said the topic is type and sources of toxicants. Okay. I also gave you the outline. This is the outline, lecture outline, and then and this is the learning outcome, which I had mentioned. And then this is the introduction. So I've given a brief introduction of what a toxicant is. That a toxicant is any substance, that is toxic, and toxicity has to do with potential of a substance to cause harm. That's what toxicity is all about. So a toxicant is any toxic substance. Then we talked about the toxin. The toxin are toxicants of natural sources, toxicants that are produced from organisms. So a toxin, and I mentioned the fact that a good example of a natural toxin is snake venom. Snake venom is a poison. It comes from the snake. And so when the snake bites you, it will inject that poison into your body. And then the poison will move into your system and then go to places where they will elicit their action. So, and I also mentioned that toxicants can be found both in air, soil, water, or food. I also mentioned that when toxicants are found in food, that is what leads to food poisoning. What leads to food poisoning, and then I also said that there are specific toxicants that affect different organs of the body. I remember I mentioned benzene, which affects the blood forming tissues. And I told you the sources of benzene. And I told you also those who are at greater risk of benzene poisoning, which are those that work in filling stations, fuel pump attendants, because benzene is a gaseous substance. So as you dispense the fuel, you are also inhaling the benzene. I also mentioned about lead, which is a specific organ toxicant affecting the central nervous system, the kidneys, and the hematopoietic system. Hematopoietic system has to do with the blood forming system. And so all those who are engaged in lead mining, illegal lead mining, or even children that eat pencils, they are exposed to lead poisoning. I also mentioned the fact that a toxicant may also affect a specific type of tissue, such as a connective tissue. So that now brings us back to this table now, the table that is trying to
Ah, the slide
illustrate.
is not moving.
Huh?
The slide just stationary. It's not moving.
It's not moving.
Yeah.
Is it moving now? Is the slide moving now? Please, I need your response.
Yeah, it's moving now. Yes.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
so maybe I will not go to slideshow again so that it can move. All right, so I told you there are two major sources of toxicants. We have the natural and the artificial. The natural and the artificial. And we have a very long list of natural toxicants. That means toxicants that come from natural sources. And in this table, we are going to see the chemical groups, the common sources, and then the mode of action. So we started talking about the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. The polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, which we usually refer to as PAHs. Now, I mentioned earlier that anytime you burn a bush, or there is fuel emission or gas burning, for instance, if there is an oil spill and then the place is burned. I think there's one that is currently going on in River State. I'm sure. How many of you heard about the places somewhere in River State where there is an oil spill and fire is burning? Did you hear that from the news? Did any one of you hear that from the news?
No, sir.
Okay. So, but I heard it from a local news from River State that there's an oil spill somewhere. And then, so anytime there's an oil spill and fire is burning, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons are released. And the one that comes close to us are, the people that smoke fish, those that smoke fish with fire, and the people that also try to roast meat with fire. As long as you are burning firewood, you are releasing polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. And these polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons are carcinogens. They are carcinogens. That means they have the potential to cause cancer. And the mode of action is that they form DNA adduct. DNA adduct is that, so now these polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, they will go and attach themselves to the DNA, thereby leading to the mutation of the gene, leading to gene mutation, and eventually they can lead to cancer. So you see that the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons can cause cancer, and that's the way they operate. Now, the second group are the biological toxins. The biological toxins, and the biological toxins are the toxins that you find in microorganisms, bacteria, fungi, and blue-green algae, and all that. And there are toxins coming from bacteria, even from fungi. I'm sure you've heard about aflatoxins. Aflatoxins, they come from fungi, and their mode of action is that they affect the gastrointestinal system, and they are also neurotoxic. That means they can affect the brain. Okay, and then the second group there is inorganic toxins. You find them in SO2, that is sulfur dioxide, that's carbon monoxide, CO2, NO2, and H2S, even ammonia, etc. And all these, they are gaseous substances, and they are released anytime there is a volcanic eruption or burning of coal, or even emission of fumes from vehicles, or as well as from fertilizers. So these are toxins from inorganic sources, and their mode of action is that they block.
Let me ask 2 quick questions. Sure. First,
Please,
somebody
is disturbing us.
So what kind of impression do you have on him?
Victoria,
do you have an idea, or do you have a plan?
It's like that one is having another lecture.
I think.
So the mode of action is that they block biochemical pathways. And then we have some toxins that are metallic. You find them when you do mining. Those who do mining and smelting and metallurgical, and even the transport industries, electronics, batteries, paints, herbicides, all these are toxins, and their mode of action is that they can block the respiratory system as well as the biosynthetic system. Then we also have phenolic compounds, and the sources of phenolic compounds are plant waste and disinfectants, and their mode of action is that they act as antioxidant, cell inhibitors, as well as endocrine disrupting compounds, that's EDCs. Okay, so as we continue on the table, we now have artificial sources, artificial types of toxicants. That means toxins that are produced as a result of man-made activities. They are not natural. And then we have the anilines, and the sources are the dyes, dyes, textiles, paints, rubber, pharmaceutical industry, and the mode of action is oxidation and dehydrogenation. Okay, and we also have antibiotics. Antibiotics are also toxicants, and you find them in pharmaceuticals, herbicides and biocides. And their mode of action is that they inhibit amino acid and protein synthesis. They inhibit the activities of amino acids and proteins. Then we have the benzylureas. We also have the carboxamides. So you will just go through this when you download this slide. You go through them. We also have the chlorofluorocarbons. This one is very familiar. You find them in refrigerants, in coolants, propellants, fire suppressants, and solvents. So these are where we find the CFCs. Of course, they are notorious greenhouse gases. They deplete the ozone layer. And then we have some pesticides like DDT and synthetic pyrethroids, and these are insecticides, and they are neurotoxins. Okay, so going further, we still have more artificial sources of toxicants. Okay, artificial toxins of toxicants. So you will have to go through them when you download this. We have the organochlorine pesticides, which are neurotoxins. That means they affect the neuron. They can affect the functioning of the brain. We also, we have many of them. The organometallic compounds, organophosphorus compounds, carbamates, pesticides. Now, these are insecticides and herbicides, and they are also neurotoxic. Specifically, they inhibit the acetylcholinesterase. They inhibit the activity of acetylcholinesterase. That's the enzyme that works in the nerve endings, helping you to coordinate very well. And because, like these organophosphorus pesticides is actually, the common pesticides that are being sold. And then these are also pesticides that people use the snipers, for instance, and I'm sure the name sounds familiar. Now, this organophosphorus pesticide, a good example is diclovos, which is the typical sniper that people can take and commit suicide. And the mode of action, once you load yourself with this sniper, they will inhibit this enzyme, acetylcholinesterase. And because the nerves are no more functioning, the person will just collapse and die. So that is it. Then we have many of them like that, the phenoxy and pyridine herbicides. So just go through these ones. Of course, nobody's going to ask you to begin to produce these tables, but these tables are there for reference purposes. You need to know the chemicals, you need to know where they come from, and then you need to know how they function. Okay, so let's keep all these tables. They are just resources that you can make reference to. Now let's go back to toxins of biological origin. Toxins of biological origin, and there are many of them, a wide variety of them, and these are poisons derived from plants and animals. Of course, you will agree with me that there are plants that are poisonous, and the reason these plants or even some of these animals release these toxins is for them to protect themselves against predators, for them to protect themselves against predators. So if the predators know that, eating these plants or animals, feeding on them is going to lead to their death, so they will avoid it. They will avoid it. So there are many of these toxins that are derived from plants and animals. Now, there are also some of them that come from microorganisms. A good example is this Bacillus thuringiensis. Now, Bacillus thuringiensis is a well-known microbial toxin. It's a well-known microbial toxin to the extent that it has been used as a biological pesticide. That means if you release these this microorganism, you can use it as pesticide because they kill pests. So it's a microbial pesticide or biological pesticide. Then we also have some of the toxins that these organisms produce to defend themselves against predators. I mentioned that earlier. Both plants and animals, they generate these toxins to defend themselves against predators. There are also some animals that produce toxins to capture their prey. That means they release these toxins, and when their target prey comes in contact with these poisons, they are caught in it, and then they can now prey on them. Then we have this toxin that comes from this organism, Clostridium botulinum. And the toxin it produces is known as botulin or botulinum toxin. It is an ecotoxin produced by this bacterium, and it has, because it is a toxin and it has a capability of destroying organisms. It has been used in the preparation of some cosmetics. Have been used in the preparation of some cosmetics, and it also has some medical uses, and so on and so forth. We also have the mycotoxins. The mycotoxins are those produced by fungi, and I mentioned to you earlier about aflatoxin. Fungi, especially Aspergillus niger, they produce certain toxins. And I also mentioned the fact that there are some mushrooms that are edible, but there are also some mushrooms that are poisonous as a result of certain mycotoxins that they release. Some mycotoxins that they release. So we have these toxins that are coming from these toxins that came from biological origins. Then there are toxins that come from waste products. You know, the normally or naturally, ecosystems are supposed to self-purify. Ecosystems are supposed to self-purify. For instance, you never can tell the amount of poisons or toxins that are released into the water body. But because the water body has a system of, purifying itself, so they recycle the elements through a variety of pathways, and which end up in mineralizing them. Now, mineralization has to do with total breakdown of complete complex compounds into simpler ones. And when this mineralization takes place, organic waste in water, in soil, water, and sediments are eliminated as soon as possible. They are eliminated. And that is where the natural ecosystem is working normally. But there are also waste products, other waste products like raw sewerage, sewerage, or what we call the septic tank. And of course, the septic tank collects all the waste that come from the toilet, and then those waste products are going to the septic tank. Now, they are supposed to be processed by naturally occurring microorganisms in water, provided the volume of those wastes are not too many. The volume of those wastes are not too many. But when the volume of the sewerage becomes too much, and they are being discharged into the water body. Now, there are some people that discharge refuse into the river, into the lake, and into the coast. Now, what this humongous discharge of waste products into the water body leads to is what is called eutrophication. Now, eutrophication is a process where the water body now has too much nutrients. There are too much nutrients in the water body, and eventually these nutrients will lead to the growth of water algae. I'm sure the algae in the water, because of the presence of too much nutrients, they now begin to grow excessively, and that is what we refer to as algal bloom. Now, algal bloom has a lot of consequences because, number one, when there is a bloom, a proliferation of algae in the water body, they tend to cover the water body that the aquatic organisms will not have access to oxygen. Aquatic organisms will not have access to oxygen, and it might lead to the death of some aquatic organisms. So again, if there is a runoff or waste discharge from cities, these wastes also contain toxic chemicals. They contain metals. They also contain petroleum hydrocarbons, even pharmaceuticals or pesticides or phenols, steroids, and many other. And they come in contact, once they come in contact with these water bodies, they can bioaccumulate inside the fish. And when they bioaccumulate inside the fish, a fisherman will go and collect the fish and then bring it out for sale. And then an innocent person will go and buy the fish and start eating, not knowing that he is also eating some of these toxins. And the worst part of it is that some of them contain these EDCs that are referred to as endocrine disrupting compounds. Endocrine disrupting compound. Now, these EDCs are compounds that have similar structure with your endocrine. The endocrine system talks about the hormones in your body. So when they have similar structure, they look like the hormones in the body. And if they look like the hormones in the body, they now begin to compete with the natural hormones, and that can cause serious problems. So waste products are very, very good sources of toxins. Now, we also mentioned some waste products from pharmaceuticals, like when from the hospital waste, for instance, you have waste that come from somebody that they dress the wound, okay, and then syringes that were used, disposable syringes. The person may even have HIV, and then other, even hepatitis and other infections, and microorganisms that come from those the hospital environment, and this can find their ways into the body of a healthy person. And if, for instance, somebody comes in contact with them, and then it moves into the system of that person, is going to cause some problems. So those are waste products, toxins from waste products. We also have toxins coming from metals and other elements. All metals, whether they are toxic or not, occur naturally in soils, air, oceans, and sediments, usually at very low non-toxic levels. There are a lot of metals that we are exposed to, okay? And some of these metals are called micronutrients, since they are essential for the synthesis of certain biomolecules. Examples of these micronutrients are iron, cobalt, chromium, copper, iodine, manganese, selenium, zinc, and molybdenum. So we refer to them as micronutrients. Micronutrients in the sense that they occur in very, very low quantities. They occur in very, very low quantities. However, human activities like mining, manufacturing, transport have also produced elevated levels of many toxic elements, thereby causing detrimental effect in the environment. So you see, many of these metals are a product of anthropogenic activities. Under normal circumstances, the metals occur, they exist in the environment at very low non-toxic levels. But activities of mining, manufacturing, industry, and even transport have led to the increase in the level of this chemical. And that's why, as a regulatory personnel, normally you have what is referred to as permissive level. So we have regulatory bodies that ensure that these chemicals do not go beyond the levels of these chemicals or metals, micronutrients or other heavy metals do not go beyond the permissive permissible limit. Permissible limit. You have the NESRA, and you have other regulatory agencies. So when you begin to test the levels of these metals or toxicants, you have to discuss them in relation to the permissive level. And if they go beyond the permissive level, then you begin to raise an alarm. Okay, so going on, we say, for example, urban soil throughout the world contain high concentration of lead due to the intense use of leaded fuel in motor vehicles for many decades. So if you check the soil in the cities and also check the soil in the villages, the soil in the cities will have higher levels of lead because many of the gasoline or fuel that we use are leaded. That means they contain lead inside of them. And then there are also other industrial activities like smelting that give rise to large amounts of metals. Okay. And they may also be sources of metal pollution through smoke stacks and discharge into water bodies. So many of these waste products may eventually find their ways into the water bodies. Now, it's either if you drink the water, you have taken in these pollutants. Again, if the fish takes in, if it comes in contact, because some of them may even penetrate through the body of the fish. And when they enter the body of the fish, they bioaccumulate. The bioaccumulation is a process whereby the concentration of these metallic substances keep increasing because the metallic substances do not degrade. So their concentrations will keep increasing. That's what we refer to as bioaccumulation. So the next one is the synthetic and natural organic substances, organic toxicants. Although the majority of organic toxicants that contaminate the environment are man-made, some can be produced by natural events. That's what we're talking about. Some of them can be produced by natural events. We talked about the bush burning, the bush fire, which are major sources of air and water contamination through the release of these polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, or what we refer to as PAHs. So, and these PAHs are present in nature at very low concentrations, but activities of bush burning, like I also mentioned, those that roast fish, if you see where they are roasting fish, and there are even people that try to roast using tires, burning tires and all that. So all those activities they're releasing high levels of polyaromatic hydrocarbons, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, and they are potential causes of cancer. Then oil spill is also another source, another way through which toxicants are released in the environment. The people in the Niger Delta or any other place where oil mining activities go on, they are all exposed to these toxicants, these natural toxicants. There is an immense range of synthetic compounds, man-made for a variety of purposes. For instance, pesticides and fertilizers used in agriculture. Okay, so pesticides and fertilizers used in agriculture. So when you apply fertilizers in your farm, they will do the job, but definitely rain will fall on them and is going to wash off a good quantity of those fertilizers into the water body. And the same thing happens with pesticides. They all find themselves into the water body. So you see, pesticides and fertilizers are agricultural sources of toxicants, toxicants that come from agricultural activities. Then we also have industrial chemicals such as PCBs and CFCs, uh, and then chemical reagents, solvents, plasticizers, dyes, surfactants, detergents, pharmaceutical drugs, and explosive used in warfare. All these are sources of uh, pollutants. The sources of pollutants. So, and then all these metals can be released into the environment through manufacturing, usage, accidental spillage, or inefficient disposal. So you can say that these synthetic and natural organic toxicants are a product of anthropogenic activities. So the next one is inorganic toxicants. Inorganic toxicants. Now, these inorganic toxicants, like the gases that we mentioned, sulfur dioxide, carbon monoxide, they are products of volcanic eruptions. When there is a volcanic eruption, they are discharged in large amounts into the environment. So if you go back to table 1, you're going to see a good number of them. Then and most of them occur as gases. Apart from the fact that they are toxic, they are also transformed into acids when they come in contact with rain. When these gases come in contact with rain, they form acids. And that's why at times you have what is called acid rain. It's just a combination of poisonous gases and then the rain that is falling. Then even carbon dioxide can be toxic at very high concentration. Carbon dioxide can be toxic at very high concentration. So once again, the levels of these toxicants in the environment have increased due to human activities. And they keep increasing as fertilizer usage is increasing, as people are burning coal and using firewood, to cook, and also using fuel, petroleum, hydrocarbons as sources of energy. The concentration of these gaseous substances, including CO2, carbon dioxide, will continuously be on the increase. Now, the issue of global warming is something that has drawn an international attention. And this global warming is a product of greenhouse effect, and then some of these greenhouse gases that are known to deplete the ozone layer. At this level, you should have known what greenhouse effect or greenhouse gases and the ozone layer. The ozone layer is what shields the earth from the sun's intensity. Okay. And as these gases are constantly being emitted, they continue to deplete the ozone layer. And the result will be higher temperatures. That means the earth now is being exposed to the sun, leading to higher temperatures. And of course, it has very serious effect. It when it can lead to flooding, it can lead to higher temperatures, and that is also the reason why we have we have changes in weather patterns. Changes in weather patterns, is as a result of these greenhouse gases. Okay, so the okay, so in conclusion, because what I have done is actually trying to summarize and discuss those tables. Conclusion, we say that there are different types of toxicants in the environment. Different types of toxicants in the environment, and they come from different sources. They come from biological organisms. They come from waste products. They also come from metals and synthetic products. And toxicants affect the global environment, including the weather. Including the weather. The reason we have these changes in weather pattern, is as a result of the effect of these toxicants that are affecting the weather. So that is where we come to the end of this class. I don't know if I've been able to make some sense, but at this point, if there is any question that you have, you can ask those questions, and then we will be able to discuss them. So thank you very much. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, sir.
All right. So, is there any questions?
Sir,
Yes.
dioxin, is it also a
Says what?
that dioxin, is it a toxicant that is carcinogenic in nature too?
Dioxin.
Yes, sir.
Dioxin is a toxic chemical that is
Okay.
harmful to health.
Okay.
It can cause different types of problems ranging from reproductive, developmental, and it can also affect the immune system. Okay, so dioxin can disrupt the function of hormones and can lead to cancer. So it's carcinogenic. Okay,
Okay, sir.
so and dioxin is one of the chemicals that is a group of chemicals that are referred to as the POPs. That is the persistent organic pollutants. Persistent organic pollutant. That means they remain in the environment for many years. They remain in the environment for many years because they cannot be easily degraded. Cannot be easily degraded. So that's it. So dioxin
Thank you, sir.
is a toxicant.
Okay, sir.
So anyone, so I'm sure you're able to download the slides. You can download the slides from the LMS, and then you go through them and study them.
Okay, sir.
I'm sure you have been doing that.
Yes, sir. We have been doing that, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. So how many people do we have to? Is it just 6 people?
Thank you. 7 of us.
Is it because of the change in time?
It's likely it's affected.
Okay. I understand. Well,
Sir, if they change the time, sir.
I'm sorry about that. So it's likely to happen just maybe once in a month. So it's not something that will happen all the time. But we're
Okay.
hoping that next week Friday we will take the normal 6 p.m. I understand
Okay.
how inconvenient it might be, with this type of, but it's important we still had the lecture so that we don't
Yes,
cancel
sir.
it out completely. So, but there's actually no problem. Just go through the slides, and you can always. I believe that most of you have my phone number. Do you have it?
I think the course rep posted the numbers.
Okay, so you if there's any challenge or any clarification, you can always call me and get. So I expect you to take advantage of that, even though we are not seeing each other, but we can be communicating. You can send me
Yes,
a
sir.
WhatsApp message. You can still send me a message and say hi and introduce yourself, because at this point I've not even met any one of you before, but I know I'm going to meet you sometime.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
let's keep the communication open, okay? So
Yes, sir.
don't just see me as someone who is very far away from you. I can be very close to you as well. So if you have any
Okay, sir. Thank you
issues
very much, sir.
this lecture, you can let me know. All right, so thank you very much, and
Yes, sir. I
we
appreciate,
look
sir.
forward to meeting you. If I'm
Thank you,
able
sir.
to schedule a small quiz before the next one, maybe we just take a few minutes and do some quiz before the main lecture next time. But outside that, let's keep going on. When it gets to the time, I will give an assignment. I will still do that
Okay,
as
sir.
part of the continuous assessment. And
Yes, sir.
remember, our policy is that nobody should fail the course. And if anybody should fail it, I wouldn't be the cause of the failure.
Thank you, sir. We'll
All right.
pass it.
Okay. So I want to
Yes,
say a good night.